When the Wright brothers claimed that they had invented a machine that could fly, most people laughed at them. More than a century later, since the Wright brothers took flight, they are the ones who got the last laugh. While some people haven't flown on a plane in their life, others take the precious machines for granted. Some rich people are so fortunate that they don't need to fly commercial, as they own a plane. Showing off by driving an expensive car is outdated, as celebrities have used planes to show off their wealth. It seems that some people have so much money that they don't mind leaving planes behind after they've had their fun. When one sees an abandoned car, it is sad, but an abandoned jet is more heartbreaking. As difficult as it is to imagine, some jets end up in graveyards, fields or rot in parking bays. Once known as the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley is one of the greatest musicians in history. Considering that he made a fortune during his career, Presley bought a jet to fly around the world. When the singing sensation couldn't use the plane anymore, the 1962 Lockheed jet star found a home on a runway in Roswell, New Mexico for 35 years. The jet didn't have an engine but had an unrestored cockpit. GMS Auctions sold the plane for $430,000. The plane boasted gold-tone hardware, red velvet seats, and a red carpet. Abandoned planes are all over the world. If one scours a place in Russia called Primorsky Krai, one will find abandoned planes. The worst part about that story is that some of the planes are in good condition. Primorsky Krai is in the Far East region of Russia and home to the pictured plane. Not only has the owner deserted the plane, but the runway is also deserted. The exterior of the plane needs little work to get it to the original condition, but the plane will need mechanical work to get it in the air. The jet is beautiful and should roam the sky instead of perched on an abandoned runway. Don't mess with this jet, as the Convair B-58 can fly at high altitudes and blistering speeds. The jet's first flight was in 1956 but went into production 4 years later. The manufacturer built 114 units and priced the B-58 at $12 million. The plane's value today would be around $80 million. Considering the plane costs so much and provides numerous features and blistering speeds, why would anybody abandon the plane? Although the plane isn't in great condition, it deserved better treatment than to be left in the middle of nowhere. The Hawker Hunter XF526 might not be the biggest, fastest or most powerful plane, but it deserves to be in the capable of hands of an owner who will maintain it so that the plane can be in the sky, as opposed to being abandoned in the field. If the plane was functioning, for somebody to get it out of the spot and onto a runway would be an arduous task but could be worth the effort. While I don't enjoy seeing abandoned vehicles or jets, everything happens for a reason. Maybe the reason that the plane is in the field is so that a deserving owner can find the plane and restore it. Everything must come to an end, and the owner of this plane decided to abandon it in a junkyard after the plane couldn't perform at its peak. Although the plane won't see the sky again, it deserved the respect of being left alone. When some people saw the abandoned jet, they took the opportunity to express their feelings by marking the plane with graffiti. Some people also stripped the plane's parts, thereby made it look more dilapidated. Instead of leaving it in the field, the owner could have donated the jet to a museum before the people sprayed graffiti on it. While some planes roam the sky, others are parked on the side of the runway. That is the unfortunate fate that the pictured machine had to succumb to after the owner didn't see a use for it. I would agree with you if you said that the plane wasn't aesthetically appealing, but this plane's appeal lies in the interior. Not only can this jet fly at blistering speeds, but the pilot will get good maneuverability while attempting to do tricks in the air. One can't judge a book by its cover, and this plane deserves to be in the sky to showcase its skills. Considering that a Learjet costs several $1 million, who would expect to find one abandoned? Learjet is a company based in Wichita, Kansas. The aviation giant has proven it knows how to manufacture planes that the market loves, as it produced the 3,000th plane in 2017. Founded in the late 1950s by William Powell Lear, Learjet has been a subsidiary of Bombardier Aerospace since 1990. A Learjet used to hold the speed record for the journey between Los Angeles to Washington until the Lockheed Senior 71 surpassed it. Trying to restore the pictured jet to its original condition will require a lot of effort. I feel that most planes deserve a chance at restoration, but this plane is in such a bad condition that the restoration might cost almost as much as purchasing a new plane. Not only has the plane rusted, but it has no wheels, a cover for the cockpit and has numerous holes. When a plane deteriorates to a condition such as this one, the best option is to sell its parts. Unfortunately, some planes will never see the sky again, and that is the case for this machine. The best way to blend into the environment is to become a part of it. The pictured Saab 35 Draken is not a plane that should blend into the bush, as it should be in the sky. The magnificent plane is an aircraft that Saab manufactured from 1955 until 1974. The Saab 35 Draken was the first supersonic aircraft deployed in Western Europe. Saab began the production of the 35 Draken in 1960 and retired it in 2005 after building just over 600 units. Saab equipped the plane with a double delta wing. Much like cars and motorbikes, jets have a graveyard where they go to rust until nothing is left of it. The pictured plane, a Fulcrum, found its way to the Zhukovsky airfield in Russia. More popularly known as the MiG-29, the Fulcrum is a twin-engine jet aircraft that saw the sky for the first time in 1977 and went into production in 1982. Since then, the manufacturer has produced more than 1,600 units. The cost of the MiG-29B in 1999 was $11 million. Considering the plane cost so much, the owner should have done something to revive it. Regardless of how tough or expensive a material possession is, if you don't look after it, the object will decay. Although jets cost millions of dollars and built to endure the severe conditions, even jets will rot if left abandoned. The pictured jet found a home in a field behind bushes and began to crack after nobody maintained it. Although the jet isn't in great condition, a good engineer could restore it to the original condition with a lot of effort. Considering the jet is expensive and has potential, the exercise is worth the effort. No, this is not John Travolta's house. The star of Grease and Pulp Fiction is a pilot who parks his private jets in front of his house, boasting a runway. The pilot of the pictured jet ended up on the wrong side of the neighborhood. To get out of the sticky situation, the pilot reversed the plane but didn't have sufficient space to maneuver the giant machine. Considering the vicinity he had to work with was limited, the pilot jumped ship when he couldn't get out of the mess. I won't be surprised if he knocks a few houses while trying to set the jet on track. Although the pictured jet is a business-class plane, it has been out of business since the owners decided to abandon it. Looking at this picture, one realizes that the plane decays inside the cabin, as well. When abandoned, the plane isn't in great condition, but it has the potential to provide luxury once restored. Not much work is needed to restore it to its pristine condition, but the project could be lucrative. If the owner of the plane doesn't want to use it further, he or she should try to sell it or rent it out before abandoning it, which is a waste. I don't doubt that this plane has seen better days, but with a lot of effort, the plane could be as good as new. It seems that the owner of the plane didn't agree, as he or she decided to cover the openings with a tarp and shift the plane to the side of the asphalt. A good paint job, as well as replacement of the windows and mechanic work, could lead to the plane taking off again. Every abandoned plane has the potential to be in the air again if the owner is prepared to invest the time and money into the project. The only time that a plane is permanently grounded is when the owner gives up on the project. Seeing a dilapidated plane from the outside is sad, but seeing a tarnished cabin is worse. The most beautiful part about most jets is the cabin. Yet the interior of this jet became tattered after the owner got enough mileage from the plane. Numerous people enjoyed the tattered seats, and the plane reached many miles before the owner decided to park it and leave it to rot. It seems that some people have so much money that they can afford to abandon a jet that costs millions of dollars, while others have never stepped foot on a plane. The fortunate aspect for the pictured planes is that it didn't end up in the middle of a field like most of the planes featured on the list. But the owner has failed to maintain the magnificent planes. At least, the planes are in the backyard but could use a good scrub. If a good restorer got his or her hands on the plane, the restoration could prove to be lucrative, as the planes are missing a good paint job and a few mechanical touches. Other than that, the planes are in a condition and require minimal effort for it to see the sky again. Otherwise known as McCoy and Gurevich, the MiG-21 is a supersonic jet fighter and an interceptor aircraft. The MiG-21 took flight for the first time in 1956 and went into production in 1959. The planes were so popular that the manufacturer produced more than 11,000 units. In the 1970s, The MiG-21 carried a price tag of $2 million. Along with the MiG-21 was a Su-22 spotted in the fields of Hungary. It seems that some people can afford to waste a lot of money. Both models are spectacular planes that deserve better care. Who would have thought that one can find a jet in the middle of a forest? The truth can be stranger than fiction, as the pictured plane has only trees to keep it company. The magnificent plane deserves to be in the sky or, at least, parked on a runway. To leave it in the middle of a forest is a tragedy. Considering the condition of the plane, it can endure many more miles in the sky. Getting it out of that awkward spot might be difficult but will be worth it once the engineers have done a few touch-ups on the jet. If one leaves it in the forest, it would be a big waste. Since this jet's front wheel isn't intact, its nose is scraping the ground, but the plane also has some mechanical issues, as well. Apart from that, the plane isn't missing much and could take flight if engineers fix the jet. Anybody who loves jet would be saddened to see this plane in the middle of a field, but it doesn't have to remain in that position. If the plane's owner didn't want to maintain it anymore, he or she should have sold it or transferred the ownership to somebody who would be delighted to own the plane. After all, this specimen deserves to be in the sky, not grounded. Jets, like cars and motorbikes, have a lifespan. If one takes care of their vehicle, it will prolong its life, but it won't run indefinitely. That is what happened with this plane when it reached the near of its lifespan. Although I don't agree that its owner should abandon the plane, one can choose a machine forever. Once a jet has reached the end of its road, the owner should sell the parts or give it to a junkyard. The least favorable option is to leave the plane in a field so that nobody can access it. After all, one man's trash is another man's treasure,